So the Utah Utes have landed in the AP top 25. And what do we think about that? Well, I think that I'm just fired up that they're in there. Should Utah be higher? I do think they should. Am I that shocked they're not, or really that concerned that they're not? No, not at all. I've seen some people who are upset, maybe upset's wrong, but just feel like, hey, Utah was snubbed. They should be higher. I think they should, but at the end of the day, they were unranked coming into the season, and we've only seen 1 week of college football. And while I also feel very good about Utah's chances to continue to climb up those rankings, let's also just say something that's absolutely true. I don't think UCLA is very good. Like, Utah made them look bad, but I don't think they're very good either. So I don't think this is the last time that UCLA is going to get blown out this season. And if it is, that's where Utah is going to continue to crawl up, right? Here's the other awesome thing about Utah. They're going to start 3-0. And then they got a great game against Tech, and I can't wait to see who's going to come out on top of that one in week 4. But they're beating Cal Poly this weekend. They're just better. We'll get to that matchup. We'll preview it. I promise we will. But Utah's going to beat them. And then this Utah team is only going to continue to ascend and do their thing from there. They're beating Wyoming, and they got a great shot to beat Tech in my eyes too. So to me, I have no issue with Utah being ranked at 25. Would love to see them be higher, but I totally get it, right? Like, Utah was never, some people have had Utah in their top 15, which I love and I think is totally fair, right? Like right now, if Utah were to play Michigan in a neutral site, I actually think Utah would win. I know a lot of people like Michigan, but Bryce Underwood being a freshman quarterback that he is, I think Kyle Whittingham and Morgan Scalley would have some crazy stuff ready for him. I think Utah could win that game. I obviously think that Utah is more than capable of beating a Florida State team that was still like waiting to kind of see and determine how good they are. And then Arizona State, Florida, I think Utah is more than capable of taking those teams, but I understand Arizona State deserves where they are. Like the top 12, I have no qualm about those teams being over Utah, even a Clemson and a Texas, right, who are 0-1. They lost to what, in my eyes, are really good teams. But a lot of these other teams, yeah, of course I'd feel good if Utah was taking them on. We're going to get to see it against Texas Tech soon, but there's a lot of transfer portal pieces still trying to come together. And yes, Tech looked outstanding this last weekend. They also played an absolute nobody. Utah played somebody. They played Arkansas Pine Bluff and won 67-7. We did not learn anything about Texas Tech. Indiana is someone that dropped down a little bit, which I do think is fair because they only beat Old Dominion 27-14. Yes, they are trying to work in Francis Mendoza, but it was not a performance that inspired a ton of confidence. So I do feel like it's fair to have Indiana dropped, and I think you could easily make the case that Utah is better than Indiana right now. If we keep it rolling from there, Tennessee looks very impressive, but so it's hard for me to be like, okay, they need to drop out after they did beat another P4 team 45-26. It's a P4 team that's rebuilding in Syracuse, but so is UCLA. So I don't really have an issue with Tennessee being there. I obviously think Utah's got a chance to win. Alabama could be taken out because they did not look great, but I understand still having the Tide ranked, especially hard to win on the road in college football. I think Florida State's solid, like we mentioned. So I get that there too. Ole Miss is another one. They won against Georgia State 63-7. That's a Georgia State team actually that beat Vanderbilt last year. Not many people love to talk about that, but that absolutely did happen. You get Texas A&M. They're still retooling, trying to figure some things out. I'm excited. They get Notre Dame in 2 weeks. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. They beat UTSA 42-24. And then outside of that, we keep it rolling. You get Oklahoma, right, is the last one I'll mention. They won 35-3 against Illinois State. But even that, so you won 35-3 against Illinois State. So you're telling me that Utah's defense, Utah put up more points against UCLA than Oklahoma did against Illinois State? That's a little concerning, right? And I know they still ended up winning the game pretty handedly, but John Mateer was still in like almost the whole game. I mean, he threw 37 passes. So that's a lot. It is a very large workload, and I'm very intrigued and just curious to see how these SEC teams look, how they kind of end up beating up on each other by the time the year ends as well too. So it's just going to be one of those things that is interesting to monitor. But yeah, I do feel like Utah should be higher in the top 25. Personally, right now, based on what we saw week 1, my rankings, I would have Utah at 13, probably looking at this right now. I feel like Utah's the 13th best team in the country, but I totally get why Florida State is above. I know Iowa State could easily be above Utah too. That's another one. Like Iowa State's behind Michigan. Why is Michigan should have plummeted more. I already crapped on Michigan a little earlier. Michigan beat New Mexico 34-17. Credit the Lobos for making that one interesting, but I'm not that impressed with Bryce Underwood, this team. I think they lost their 2 best defensive tackles last year, both first round picks. They're just replacing a lot. So I'm not in the feel of just like, oh, this is such a juggernaut of a team and a program. Versus in a lot of ways, I do feel like Utah is a juggernaut in the team and a program right now because Utah has the best offensive line, arguably, in college football. They have one of the most dynamic players who, in some ways has started to try and build a little bit of a Heisman campaign. A couple people in the national media have been trying to start and push it. And I've absolutely loved seeing that. Some of this extra hype that Utah's been getting. It's amazing. They have a legit 1-2 punch at running back. They have wide receivers who are capable of stepping up and making plays and moving the chains like they did against UCLA. You have a defense that's loaded at all three levels. Defensive end, a tremendous pass rush duo based on what we saw week 1. Linebacking core that flies all around all over the field and makes plays, and a secondary that's really stingy in coverage, and Utah puts them in tough spots and asks them to do a lot. This is, to me, a team that's only going to continue to climb in the top 25. The nice thing, as I said, for Utah, though, is everything is right in front of them to continue to climb higher and higher in these rankings, and especially when the time it matters for the AP poll top 25. To me, based on how Utah's looked so far, I predicted Utah to be undefeated going to that Arizona State game. So I would have them at 5-0. Obviously, I feel very good about that still. This West Virginia team, there's just so much up in the air, the transfers that we don't know about. So yeah, I feel good at Utah even going on the road. So it's a long flight over there, but I think they'll be locked in. They'll be ready. Rich Rod's a good coach. Utah could absolutely lose that game, but I don't think they will. I think they're ready for the challenge. Same thing with Texas Tech. That'd be a great matchup, but this Utah team felt like they were back after week 1. I feel like they're going to get back to their winning ways at home, and that's what makes that ASU game very interesting. I did have Utah losing to ASU to start the year. I just think it's really hard to go undefeated in Big 12 play. So to me, the reason at the start of the year I picked Arizona State and Baylor is I think those are two of the toughest teams they play. Baylor also being on the road, although with how much Baylor struggled with Jackson Arnold's mobility, I'm feeling very good about Utah taking on the Baylor Bears right now with how good Devin Diapir is mobility-wise. But yeah, there's definitely a chance in a world where this Utah team can find a way to go undefeated. Like, no, yeah, in the regular season, there is. Like, I think it's more than likely they lose 1 or 2 games, but 11-1, 12-2, not 12-2, 10-2, 9-3, all that feels like the most likely outcome. I don't watch Monday and see 7-5. To me, Utah, because their talent is on another level than a lot of these Big 12 teams. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Monarch Money has you covered. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you have the full picture, you can end up leaving money. We don't have the full picture. You can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal financial tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link up all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smarter categorization on your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. With Monarch Money, right? I mean, can you identify that what you're saving as much as you thought you could? I mean, Monarch helps you notice any insufficient investment allocation, discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. That's something that you can only get with Monarch. So don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com. That's all caps, no spaces. At monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege, all caps, no spaces, when you head over and use Monarch Money today. That's going to do it for today's Locked On Utes. Be back with you tomorrow, talking a little bit about what we can expect in Utah's game against Cal Poly. We hope to see you then.